Zach, I can't believe that we're on the last week of the season. Why doesn't the time move so fast in the spring and the summer? And all of a sudden it gets here September 1st, and next thing you know, we're in the football championship games, and it just drives me nuts. And today we're going to take a look at one of them, the Big Ten championship game. One of the reasons I picked that game out, Penn State and Wisconsin, because there's so many things that are going to happen based on these two teams. Will Michigan get in? Does Ohio State deserve to play in it? If Washington loses to Colorado, then they move up Michigan into their place? What's the reason for having Penn State and Wisconsin play if they can blow each other out in the championship game and then not even move forward to the Final Four? Does this say that we need a Final 8 in the championship series or something like that? I think in the contract they are limited to having just Final Four for another few years. Yeah. So it may be in the works. I think they should have 8 teams, but this Penn State-Wisconsin game, what I really want to do is look and see who's hot. Well, when I look to see who's hot, they're both are. It seems like Penn State, they've won 8 straight. Wisconsin, they've won 6 straight. Penn State, they've averaged 40 points per game in their streak. Wisconsin, they've averaged 43 points per game in their streak. Penn State, they beat Michigan and Ohio State, which they make a big case for being somewhere if they win this game today. Defensively, I think Wisconsin wakes up with a better defense. And also, one thing that really, I don't know if it's bad luck or bad timing, but that Saquon Barkley, he's the big rushing, he's their number 1 rushing back for Penn State, and he injured his foot. They don't want to release any information on that. So I'm going to just plug that into my head and say, that might be a factor which would lead me to take Wisconsin. So I'm going to look at a couple other things. Wisconsin, they've been in the Big Ten championship game 4 of the last 6 seasons, and this is the first time ever for Penn State. And I'll tell you what, had they been in it last year, I could make a case for Penn State. I like the way their quarterback throws the ball. Maybe they'll have to throw more and not miss Barkley or something like that. But they've never been there, and it's a new experience. When you get there, when you practice, when you have interviews, you got to get out tickets for your parents and friends and all that. They got to do all kinds of publicity stuff, and they just don't know the routine and everything that goes into playing a game. It's like the first time for every one of these guys. So I'm going to go ahead and put an X next to Wisconsin, lay the 2.5, and go to the movies.
Yeah, it's a small point spread. I think both of these teams are right where they should be in the BCS standings. Even if they won, or obviously one's going to win, even if one wins, Wisconsin or Penn State, in all likelihood, they're probably still not going to get in the BCS. I think more eyes are on Michigan. If Michigan can hope that Washington loses, like you said, they can sneak back in that top 4. But we'll see what happens there. But as far as this Big Ten championship, I think it's going to be a safe game. Both teams will probably wait till the 4th quarter to try to pull it out. It's not going to be a big-time lead early in the game, not a 14-0 or anything like that. And whenever you have, like you said, strength versus weakness, Wisconsin's been in this position before. Their coach is a little bit shaky. I'm not a big fan of Halsey. Not a big fan of him. But I think it's their time to get this Big Ten championship and make things a little bit interesting.
So you're with me on the Wisconsin play, and then Wisconsin, if they win, then they go to the, it's funny. Who would go to, I guess they would go to the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
As the conference champion. Michigan, where would they end up? You could have them playing somebody, they might not even want to go anywhere. So you might want to look when they get their bowl game matchup that they might be in a 3rd choice bowl game as far as what they're concerned, and bet against them because they might not have any incentive. So we'll be looking at that down the road in the next 3 or 4 weeks. So let's move over to the pros. I think, what are we on, week 13 in the pros?
Yes, we are.
And, it just drives me crazy that they don't play year-round football. I mean, this is amazing. We're going to take a look at 2 real hot teams. Kansas City Chiefs, they're playing in Atlanta, and basically You got a team that's favored by 3.5 in Atlanta, but you know what? They're not the dominant team at home that they've been in the past. And Kansas City, I believe they're 4-2 on the road, but they've won the last 4. And not only won, they've covered all the point spreads. But here's a mental thing. I'm always into this mental thing. Maybe it's because I'm mental, but you got a team, 8-3 Kansas City. Well, they're chasing Oakland, so that's a different type of play. It's a different type of mentality when you go. Where Atlanta, they're only 7-4, but yet they're comfortable. They're sitting on top of their own division because of the weakness of the NFC South. So you got to look at things like that. For Kansas City, here's again, their defense isn't very good, but yet they only allow 21 points a game. They give up 390 yards per game, but yet they bend. They allow yardage, and then when it has to be stop them in the red zone, they seem to somehow do that. Alex Smith, there again, he's no standout. He's struggling. That's the first time in a few years we can put that label on him. He's only had 10 touchdowns and 4 interceptions this year, and the defense is allowing 21 points per game on the road with D. Ford and Marcus Peters leading that way, but yet they got a couple guys still hurt and out. Kansas City, and this could be another thing, that the mentality of their team and the coaching, the way they set it up. After the last 7 times that they've covered the spread, after those games, they've lost and not covered the spread the following game. They're 0-7 after ATS, and last week they covered against Denver. So maybe they're not supposed to cover. And I'll tell you another thing, they play at home. If you ever got a look-ahead game mentally, they're playing the Raiders next week in Kansas City. So this could be just, a fluke of the schedule. It's out of conference. They haven't really done well against the NFC South in the past couple of years, and yet they're 4-0 against their own division, which shows that they are a pretty strong team. On the other hand, you got Atlanta. All they do is score. But here again, their game plan confuses people because sometimes they're scoring because it's Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Sanu hooking up, and they're doing more passing. Other times it's Freeman and Coleman and rushing every single play. They're 3rd in total yards. They're 1st in scoring. But there's that, you can be 3rd in total yards at 400 yards a game, but then when you give up 388 yards, how do you compute that on defense? So I think I'm going to put a little bit more emphasis that the Raiders and the Chiefs are playing the following week. I like to usually take the home team when it's a late out-of-conference game, which makes me lean towards Atlanta. I also like the fact that it's very difficult once you get behind to have a team like Alex Smith play catch-up. And boy, it seems like Ryan's teams, they just get behind and then they decide what to do, how to catch up and all that. And I don't know if they can catch up once they get too far behind in this game. So I'm going to go ahead and take the home team and continue with that trend that Kansas City just doesn't cover, after they have a win. It's like win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. They've done it 14 straight weeks, so that's what we're going with.
Well, they played a heck of a game on Sunday Night Football, I'll tell you that, to come back, force an overtime, and then win the overtime. That easily could have been a tied game and another shot at Roger Goodell on why do we have these rules in overtime, but they got it. That kick went right through the field goal, hit the post and went right through the field goal. So they're a hot team, obviously, 8-3. But one thing that you mentioned, Hollis, about the Kansas City Chiefs facing the Raiders, they have extreme confidence against the Raiders. They're probably the only team in football that's figured out Derek Carr the last 2 years. But when he plays them, he gets rattled. I don't know what, off the top of my head, I'm not sure what the turnover to interception ratio is, but I know it's at least 2-1, might be higher, 2.5-1 in interceptions to touchdowns. So they're confident going into that game. They beat him 3 straight times and beat him in a lopsided fashion, including earlier this year at Oakland. So that game will be at home here in 2 weeks. So I think they're ready for that game. Atlanta, on the other hand, are they smoke and mirrors? Possibly. They've had good luck in their division. And they just come up killing the Arizona Cardinals, so everybody's sky high on the Atlanta Falcons. Should they take care of the job at home again? Yes, they should. But I think Kansas City has that formula. It just drives you nuts. They play that vanilla style, but they still move the football. They dink the ball to the Tyreek Hill, they dink the ball to Travis Kelce, they dink the ball to whoever, and they move the ball. It's unbelievable. They still don't have the running game that they would like, but Atlanta, I'm not going to look at what Atlanta did against the Arizona Cardinals and give them rave reviews. Obviously, the Cardinals have more issues than in years past. This year has just been abysmal for them, but I think Kansas City, don't look at the records, look at the quality. Kansas City is the better team. This line is off. I think it's a little bit off based on what Atlanta did as 5.5-point favorites against the Arizona Cardinals. And then they go down there, get this win, and then next week's game has even higher stakes for Kansas City taking over the division lead with that win over the Raiders.
Well, also, this is the last team that the Falcons face that has a winning record. The rest of the season, I think the combined win-loss record, if don't quote me, but it's like 14-32. So they got clear sailing. So basically, if I'm in the locker room, if I'm in the coach, if I got to sit there and motivate these guys, this is it. I mean, this is one game that we have to test ourselves. Yeah. We have to play hard. We have to get motivated, and we have to make sure that we're beating a team with a winning record so we can hang on to that. And I think it's easy to pull that up. I think it's easy to sit there and just score. I do like what you said, that Kansas City confuses everybody. They confuse me with their stats. I mean, how are you averaging only 21 points when you're giving up almost 400 yards also, where it's a complete opposite with Atlanta,
Yeah.
But the thing is, they bend, but they don't break. And I don't know, maybe there's some lack of stress that they don't put on anything. They just take it easy, take it one game at a time and one series at a time. But for my money, I'm still going to stick with Atlanta. Lay the 3.5. They're 3-2 at home. Kansas City's 4-2 on the road, so I know I'm going against that. But just something tells me that they've got to win a game with a team against a winning record, so they know exactly where they stand going into the last 4 weeks of the season. So that's going to be it for week 13, and we'll be talking to you later.